The next morning, as soon as Seth and I finished eating, we both headed to the minister's private office. The knocking on the door seems unusually loud, perhaps due to the tension. After 2 knocks, a deep voice from inside said, "Enter," making me feel even more stiff. "Hey, Dad." While sitting in his chair, the minister silently welcomed us both. He stared at me with glaring eyes, and my throat went dry.
"I'd like to formally introduce my wife, Naala."
"I am pleased to meet you, Father." I bent my knees, but regardless of that, the minister's gaze flowed to Seth.
"I never imagined you'd actually steal away the wife of the political assistant. My sense of perception must have dulled. You got anything else you want to say?"
He laughs at Seth's words, despite the irritation in them. The minister put his hand on his chin and turned his eyes to me.
"I hope this isn't some play by the political assistant to get this girl closer to me." "It's not." "Are you sure? Don't get played. That is a suspicious guy." "He did divorce her. That's the truth. That's why Noel isn't involved. If he starts saying selfish things now, I won't forgive that."
The usually calm Seth became more pointed. Even though the minister was facing me, I felt the anger was directed towards Noel, who wasn't there.
"You've come to say some pretty strong words. Are you also dissatisfied with me like this?" "No."
He parried Seth's sharp gaze and laughed from the back of his throat, seemingly enjoying himself. After a brief laugh, his expression dropped and his face became serious. I had seen it before, when he had conversed in the corridors of the royal castle, the minister's face. His emotionless eyes narrowed as they reflected mine.
"Madam, or rather, you're Mrs. Naala now. Have you really separated from the political assistant?"
It's a fact that we were divorced. Well, getting him to trust me immediately would be impossible. I'm not happy to be trifled with like this, but I think it's unavoidable. After all, I was Noel's wife until the other day. Anyone would be suspicious if that girl were to suddenly become his son's wife. Can you trust me? However, I finally got my meeting with the minister. I can't be scared here. As I stepped forward, Seth put his hand on my back and added a few words.
"She is a trustworthy person. My son's fallen for you pretty hard. Yeah, well, as you know, she's got more guts than I do. And this marriage has nothing to do with the political assistant's intentions. This is my and her will. In the first place, it's impossible to mix someone else's intentions with her strong will. She believes she's in the right, and that's why she was able to wait for you every day, rain or shine."
The minister listened until the end and then sighed lightly. He finally got up from his chair and walked to the window. He was most likely looking down at the gate that I had continued to wait at.
"Honestly, getting tied up with her. If you listen to her, you might change your mind. So, would you listen to her?" "No need to ask." "Old man, I understand the matter in the letter."
The minister turns to me and says in the same tone he uses when he is working.
"Therefore, this is a response on top of that."
Yes. If only we could meet face to face. I'd be lying if I said that I wasn't depressed after having my hopes torn to shreds. But somehow... Is it an illusion created by my strong desires that his eyes feel a little gentler than before?
"But I'll believe that you took her as your wife. But whose side are you going to be on?" The only thing that's changed is that this little girl here has become part of our family. Seth, you seem to want to change my mind. but you should remain composed and think about the consequences. As you know, I have a great deal of influence now among those who are opposing His Majesty's new law. But that is limited to now, as we simply share the same opinion. It's not like they have pledged loyalty to me. If I were to change my opinion in such a situation, I'm sure you can imagine what will happen next. You as well. I welcome you into our house. May this become the ground that supports your feet. However, the water you're trying to sprinkle may cause that ground to crumble. Think very carefully about that.
I feel ashamed at my own naivete, thinking that getting in close might enable me to do something. I sat down on the bed with a heavy sigh, and CEF, sitting next to me, put his hand on my head.
Sorry for making you feel bad.
This is nothing when compared to when I was waiting in that heavy rain.
I see.
Still, when the hand on my head moved gently, I felt a little pampered. I chuckle at my childlike self, becoming relaxed after being petted. The minister seems to be worried about you.
Yeah?
The ground that the minister spoke of, that meaning is also included, isn't it?
Oh, that's him putting pressure on me.
On you?
He wants to decide how others around him are behaving. I'm not good at those kind of things.
How others are behaving? You mean the opposition forces that are currently siding with the minister?
Yeah. As my father said, it's not like the opposition forces are united by friendship. Profit, fame, beliefs. The things that are important differ for each person. It's his job to meet people with different opinions and beliefs and argue policy. I think he probably had a political agenda in showing people that he wasn't interested in listening to them.
In other words, I was used by Minister Orta without realizing it.
Well, there are some ministers who don't exactly like the political assistant. There are those who'd side with you if you showed no connection to him.
Various intentions wrapped up in politics. It's the same in Rus and Nasla. So, CEF, you're not good at these political intentions.
Intentions. Better put, I hate fighting.
He scratched the back of his head and looked away, seemingly embarrassed. I tilted my head and urged him to continue, and CEF fell back with a mighty thud. There was a muffled sound as his large body sank into the mattress. His eyes, looking up at the canopy, seemed to be gazing off into the distance.
There's many different beliefs in the world, and all of them are right in their own way. I think politics is about those things clashing together and trying to find a better direction. I'm not like my old man. I don't like clashing against people and denying feelings. That's why I can only show a good face to friends and people in need. That's how I've lived so far. But if there's something you want to protect, something you can't give up on, then you'll end up fighting, yeah. That's why I didn't want to have that kind of thing. I just wanted to live a simple life. Yeah, that's what I thought. It's pathetic enough to make you laugh.
I won't laugh. Even though you lived that way, you changed yourself in order to make a promise to me. I think you have the same strength as Minister Orta.
The old man's determination is much stronger. He knows, from a very real sense, that he has something to lose by sticking up for himself.
I wonder if he's strict because of that determination.
However, he's pretty sweet to his relatives. Once he's decided that someone is family, no matter how much he might dislike him, no matter how much he might disapprove of their way of life, he won't toss you out. I think that's how he decided to protect. If you don't think it through, he won't take your side because it won't be good for him.
Seth, you do love your father.
Huh?
You know him well and respect him.
Respect. Well, it's not that I don't respect him.
Have I soured things between you and your father?
Nah, we weren't that close to begin with. He never really paid that much attention to me, and when he's home, the old man tends to dote on Mina, and it's almost like I don't even exist.
Mrs. Mina.
Ah, didn't you meet her? I said before, the old man's second wife.
Was that due to the law?
No. Mina is from an aristocratic house, like this one, so the law doesn't apply. They married out of love.
Then you probably had mixed feelings over that.
No, I wasn't the only one who was depressed over the rot. I really was grateful to her, as she supported the old man.
The minister was depressed due to the rot.
Yeah. The cause of my mother's death was the rot.
I see.
Yeah. So I think the old man really does want to support research on the rot. However... you see, my mother, who gave birth to me, was blindly devoted to the spirits.
Ah, it's a way of honoring her memory. I see. Okay. Cool. Glad to have that background as well.
When she was still healthy, she said, "When I die, bury me in the temple so I can be close to the spirits." But people who die from the rot can't be buried in the temple. Their remains are cremated and placed in a communal graveyard. My devoted mother hated that very much. So the old man, he said, "Your curse can only be purified by burning it with a sacred flame." And that convinced my mother. I think the old man knew that the rot's not a curse, because he didn't believe in anything and he was fine. But my mother, with her devotion, fell to illness. But he had to say that in order to convince my mother. It was just that day, and the next one. The old man didn't do anything, just stayed in Mother's room the whole time.
If that's the case, you wouldn't be able to shake your head so easily.
Well, it's a complicated feeling. But ultimately, I think my father's hatred for the rot won out. The old man really loved my mother. That's why when this opportunity appeared, I think that might have saved the old man.
What?
Even if he has to admit that his past words were wrong, he'd feel better if I could go down a path that he truly believes is right. Well, that's just my thoughts at least.
You were also worried about the minister.
I am a relative at any rate.
I'm jealous.
How so?
I think that being related by blood is, in a sense, having an ally.
An ally? He asked before, "What side are you on?"
The minister did.
Yeah, my old man. Being on someone's side also means you can be someone's enemy. Even if that's not what you want, that's what it can look like. Knowing that, I tried to avoid that this whole time. This is just my guess, but the old man is trying to figure out what me, who'd been running away all this time, is going to choose. So as I said, his current opposition is against me, not you.
But he hates me, right?
No. I think he rather likes you. I think he liked your guts from the beginning.
No way.
Really. He loves people with guts. Rather, people with strong wills. I'm the same.
You are.
Yeah, I am.
Sometimes Seth says things in a way that I can't decide how to take them. For example, what he said just now. He spoke rather casually, given what he'd said, so maybe it doesn't mean much. But on the receiving end of that, sometimes it shakes me up. I smile, try not to let it show in my face, and then Seth got up and took my hand.
Hey, Naala.
He talks to me in a very natural way, without any sense of formalities, in the tone of consulting with a friend. That's why I was able to relax my shoulders and look back at him.
Honestly, at first I thought you were kinda troublesome.
Yeah, well, I guess that's not wrong.
But as I met you, I came to be fascinated by you. As a member of the opposite sex.
His sudden confession made my mind go blank for a moment. Seth reasserted his grip on my hand, which was frozen in surprise, and continued on, his face suddenly serious.
I've always taken the easy way out, so your straightforward way of living was so dazzling to me. I felt like if I had a girl like this by my side, I could see a new world after all these fun, boring, ambiguous days. When I said I wanted to get rid of the rot, that wasn't a lie. But I do really like you, so I decided I wanted to be on your side. If I could do that, then I thought I could change my way of living. I'll tell the old man all that properly tomorrow.
Seth?
I'm sorry.
Huh?
It's probably annoying to be confessed to by someone so much older than you. I knew that, but I couldn't help myself. So, sorry. I just want to hold you when you make that face.
What kind of face is that?
A face that stimulates an old man's ulterior motives.
Jeez, how serious are you being?
Very, very serious. I wish I could have you right now.
That would be problematic.
Right. It's all my one-sided feelings.
If you like someone that much, one day you'll end up getting used by a woman who can only think of her own goals, like myself.
For you, shouldn't you think a bit more about your own happiness?
I am. At least I think I am.
You're always giving priority to others. This old guy here is worried that your kindness will be taken advantage of. And I wouldn't mind being used by a girl I loved. So, you can lean on me a bit more, Naala.
Thank you. I'm going to push the apology that was on the tip of my tongue to the back of my mind. I'm sure that Seth would not be happy to be apologized for his behavior. All I can do now is to thank him for this seemingly gratuitous favor. I'll remember this. Naala will remember this. I've taken on the responsibility of Seth being my ally. I have to remember that. Whatever happens at the end of this decision, I must be prepared to accept everything. That's the responsibility I owe to Seth. With these words engraved in my mind, I grabbed Seth's hand back.
Pops, we need to talk. Come in.
We visited the minister's room at the same time that we did yesterday. Though it seemed to be the same situation, today was a little different. Seth held my hand firmly, and I also held his without hesitation. Nice. Lean on each other, you two.
Look at the two of you. What is it this time? I've decided I'm gonna be on her side. I came to tell you that. And did you talk about what that means?
Yes. He turned his gaze to me as I answered and squinted his slitted eyes. He looked at me for several seconds, then muttered with a deep sigh.
I never imagined that the prodigal son would settle down for anyone. I was hoping you'd come to your senses, but it seems things have become more complicated.
Minister.
What?
I've also decided something. Will you listen to me? Seth too looked surprised at me speaking up, which we hadn't discussed in advance. The minister nodded slowly while also observing Seth.
There is no advantage in me running away from the words of a daughter that has entered my home.
I believe that Seth is my ally no matter what happens. I've decided that. And I haven't forgotten how I came here, nor the barriers between countries. But I don't want to break Seth's heart for deciding to protect me, so I will take good care of your son. I always felt like the minister was like a wall in front of me, or an obstacle. But now that I'm not the wife of the political assistant, but the wife of Seth, I might be able to establish a different relationship with him. I thought so, hearing Seth's story yesterday. Would you please allow me into this house? I am not sure how much my carefully spun words really resonated with the minister. There was a possibility that he would be offended, not reconciled. I clenched my hands, on the verge of trembling with tension, and continued to be stared at.
Seth. What? I knew we weren't alike, but it seems our tastes in women also differ. Seriously. You chose quite the troublesome bride.
Similar to the other day, the minister walked to the window. As I was wondering if he would reject me again, I glanced at his face and was surprised to see a smile from the side. The minister, squinting due to the morning sun, glanced at me.
If I listen to your opinion, I may be denounced by my current allies. Am I correct to assume that you are prepared to accept the consequences together?
Yes.
Are you really?
The minister nodded at my answer without hesitation. He closed his eyes and exhaled slowly, as if to let out what had been bottled up inside.
I have no intention of objecting to continuing the research on the rot. I still have my doubts about releasing the women, but if you ask, I will cooperate. However, in order to accept your request, I do have one condition.
A condition?
Seth. You must succeed me. That is my condition. What? I can't step off my solid ground with my prodigal son as a successor. However, if you really are serious about settling down, then perhaps I can have expectations of you for the future. Would that be the near future?
The minister nodded to the wryly smiling Seth with a face that seemed to say that it was only natural.
This is my insurance. If any unreasonable demands are made of me, I may have you take over for me immediately. Can you say that in front of me and her? I don't mind. Everyone here is family. Isn't that right?
Yes. On this day, I became family with my former political opponent.